Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Qingyi, the 1.1 electric S-rank stun unit. This character is very interesting. I do have some concerns with this character, especially with track record history of miHoYo 1.1 characters. If anybody remembers the original Qingyi or Silver Wolf, how she fell off, there are some concerns in her design as well. That I will talk later about it in the video. I will also talk in this video about what kind of team compositions you can use her in. But before that, of course, we'll go over her kit and let's analyze it. We'll begin with her basic. Her basic attack, you'll be able to perform up to a 4-hit combo, which deals physical and electric damage. On the third hit, continuing to tap will deal continuous attacks without interrupting the combo count. Stopping the tap will end the continuous attack and automatically execute the fourth attack. During the continuous attack period, the fourth attack will be enhanced. So this seems to be quite interesting, where you can get like a lot of attacks in, but there doesn't seem to say you have any interrupt resistance or anything like that. You could still get interrupted, just as a heads up. Spark, this is her mechanic. When Qingyi deals electric damage, she will gain spark pressure. Upon reaching 75%, she will enter spark mode. Using basic attack, spin will consume all spark pressure and exit spark mode. Each 1% of spark pressure over 75% used will increase the damage of the spin and daze by 1% and 0.6% respectively. This means that she can basically get, let's say you can go only spark over 100. I'm not certain whether the spark mode can go above 100%, but let's suppose it only goes up to 100%. That would be basically 25% damage boost and 15% daze boost. But it's very likely that you might be able to push beyond 100%, so you could get more. But even if that's the case, it might be harder to achieve higher spark pressure. But nevertheless, it is nice. It does allow her to be able to stun enemies very quickly. After all, she is a stun unit. She does have more things in her kit that allows you to increase even more days and so on. As for the basic attack spin, which I already mentioned in her spark mode, this is basically an attack that's available while she's in spark. As you can see, while in spark, you will hold left click to perform a 5-hit combo, followed by a finisher dealing massive damage. Releasing the left click mid combo will end it early and trigger the finisher. When Qingyi is about to get hit while casting the finisher, she can trigger perfect dodge, and the finisher will inflict X stacks from core. We'll get to the core a bit later. I do like to have these things in order from left to right from character kits. The next part is going to be dodge. As for her dodge, nothing particular, all classic, normal, as pretty much other characters. She doesn't have double dodge like Jane though, or something like that, so pretty straightforward. Now let's go over to her skill. Her skill is pretty much straightforward. It does provide anti-interruption when you're using her skill, especially her enhanced skill seems to have like a leap jump attack type of thing, so having invulnerability while she's in those animations, it is nice. But do note that you will be still taking damage, so you have to be very careful with this one, especially if enemies hit hard. Nevertheless, she's a stunner. You'll be able to stun enemies very quickly anyway, so I don't think you're gonna have these problems. Now let's go over to her chain. Her chain skill, whenever chain skill is triggered, she will perform a strong continuous strike in a large area in front, so this is like potentially hitting multiple enemies. Being able to hit multiple enemies to apply her strong impact daze and be able to stun enemies as quickly as possible, it's pretty nice. As for her ultimate, basically a stronger version of her chain skill, will launch a powerful series of strike in a large area in front of her, followed by the final strike. So this is basically potentially good for some sort of AoE mobbing enemies as well, because not necessarily you're gonna be using always her ultimate, because you might want to use the ultimate for some other DPS in the team or something like that, but her chain skill, having the capability to hit like multiple targets, and since she applies a lot of days, you're able to stun multiple targets relatively quickly, and this could be be useful to get chain skills back to back with relatively ease. Now let's go quickly over her assist. Her assist is pretty much straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary. Feel free to pause it if you want to read this one, but it's pretty much similar as with other characters we already have, so nothing in particular, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on this one. Now let's go over her core. Her core is very interesting, and actually I already mentioned a bit earlier the core. Remember from the basic attack spin, which is enabled whenever she's under spark mode buff, whatever you want to call it. Basically when she's using spin, the normal attack, the finisher will inflict 5 stacks of submission up to 20 stacks. Each stack will increase the enemy days multiplier by 2%. This means you'll be able to get up to 40% days multiplier on an enemy, which means that you'll be able to stun enemies much faster, which is very powerful. And do remember that the days multiplier debuff on an enemy will effectively increase the days from all of your units, not just from Qingyi herself. And also each combo hit will inflict an additional stack, and when the enemies do recover from days, the stack count will reset, so you'll have to always reapply it again. As for extra ability, when an attacker unit or one of the same faction is present, basically it's just like Zuyuan, all the police faction have a different additional ability passive requirement compared to the previous factions. For police squad, it's basically one character role or the faction, and that's when their passive works, which is very different compared to requiring 2 of the same element. As for her extra ability itself, every normal attack will increase days damage by 20%. This is very nice because now everybody on your team with their basic attacks will be able to stun enemies much faster. And if her impact does exceed above 120, each additional point will grant her 6 attack, up to a maximum of 600. So for her to be able to reach 600 attack, you'll need to have in total 220 impact, basically 100 impact over 120. This is pretty nice because now she can also do some more damage. You don't put a lot of impact on her anyway, so she can stun enemies even faster, but at least now she gets some extra damage out of this as well because it converts into attack, which is pretty nice. I'll also show you her talents, basically dupes very quickly. Feel free to check it out for yourself if you do want to, so you can just pause the screen. And immediately after this, I'm going to talk about her teams and also the concerns I have with this character. Let's begin with her team options. Zuyuan surprisingly works and synergizes really well with Qingyi because, as you can see for Zuyuan here, Zuyuan will deal more damage with her enhanced shot shells when enemies are stunned. And obviously by playing Qingyi with Zuyuan, you'll be able to stun enemies much faster, so she's gonna get this additional damage multiplier way more often. So there is definitely synergy, plus they're both from the same faction, so they do cover each one other additional ability, which is pretty nice. But definitely it's not needed to have Qingyi to make Zuyuan really good, so you don't have to stress about that. As for other Qingyi option, you can also play her in all of those teams where you played it with Ambi. Just make sure you still have the additional ability active for Qingyi, because Qingyi does need to be played with an assault or someone from the same faction, which means that playing like a double anomaly team with Qingyi, you will lose her extra core ability unless if that unit unless if that unit is from the same faction, which would be Jane Doe. So technically you could play Jane Doe with Grace and then go with Qingyi, and that would also work fine to some extent. But do note that generally with Qingyi right now, you will primarily try to pair her up with Zuyuan when she comes out, or with some other assault units, because any other type of compositions before Jane Doe comes out should be losing instantly her passive, which would provide 20% days basic attack for your entire team, which is pretty powerful and nice, and obviously that nice attack boost that she can also get and make her do more damage. So I would say that on her release, her team options might be a bit more limited, but as soon as they release Jane Doe and Seth, there's gonna be more options for her. And now let's go over to the biggest concern I have for this character. She doesn't provide anything outside of just helping you stun things faster. And yes, stun is very good. It does help you go through the content, but I believe with this character, it's gonna end up similar to a Silver Wolf situation, where she's gonna be really good at the start when she comes out, but as we get a bigger roster of more things, or especially more stun units that have just more additional things on top going for them, they will just completely phase Qingyi out. Of course, if you do like character or anything like that, feel free to go for it, but just as a heads up, I don't think this character will age that well compared to something like Jane Doe, but nevertheless, I think she will still help you with progressing through the game for at least 6 months, no problem, but do expect after around that time there will be some better stun units that will come out that will have more into their kit, and especially if you already have something like Koleda or Lycaon, you already have some pretty decent stunners on your account as well, and you're not really forced to use Ambi if you really need to play with a stun unit, because mind you, they might release some future units that will require specifically to be played with a stun unit for their extra ability, or even something in their kit similar to what Zuyuan has, and you might need one stun unit on your account to be played, and obviously Ambi is not the strongest or best stun option, but if you have nothing else and you can just get by with her, that would also be fine. But like I said, if you do like her, feel free to go for Qingyi. She will work perfectly fine, but just be aware that there will definitely be better stun units that will have something more in the kit than just helping stun faster the enemy. Maybe like a pen ratio buff, maybe some resistance down, or something extra on top. Think with like what you have with Ruan Mei in Star Rail when Ruan Mei came in 1.6, and before that we had Silver Wolf, yeah? So think of it something like that potentially happening in this game as well. So it's completely up to you how you want to go about it. If you are going for Zuyuan, you don't have to stress to get Qingyi to get her passive or anything like that, because Zuyuan just needs a support character in the team, not just share the same faction. So that could easily be Nicole or even Lucy, and she's going to get the additional ability, no problem whatsoever. So if you're going for Zuyuan, don't stress about must having to get Qingyi or anything like that, but definitely it will work if you do so. So yeah, this is it for the video. I hope it gave you some idea how to go about it with Qingyi, and also if you do have any questions about the game or anything like that, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. I also like to let you know that I stream every single day on Twitch/YouTube, so you can also ask me directly there if you would like to chat or anything like that. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I wish you a wonderful day and see you in the next video.